perhaps we can be chatting here one day soon. My guest today is a professional possibilist, a neuroscience nerd, an executive coach, and a woman on a mission. I'm delighted to welcome Gitanjali Trevorrow-Seymour to the You and Your Business Deal. Hiya, Gita.
You did it. You did the whole name. Well done, Alec. We've taken up 20 minutes of the broadcast just with my name, but you did it.
Thanks very much. I can call it a take now and move away. Listen, I'm taking you back to your last year in school. What were the possibilities for you? Where were you heading into your future?
Yeah, I guess my last year of school was a bit conflicted, actually, because I had really, since I was 6 years old, only had one mission, and that was to be an actress. And I was completely convinced that that was who I was going to be in the world, that I was going to win an Oscar. Just a spoiler alert for all of your listeners, I did not win an Oscar. No, you can Google me, you're not going to see an Oscar there. So I had this dream, I had this passion, I had this thing inside me. And at the same time, I was at an all-girls school, and there was a certain expectation. And that was, when you listed the things that you were going to be, actress was not at the top. In fact, it didn't even feature in the top 10. You know, you were either a psychologist, or you were a doctor, or you were a lawyer, or you were a first wife. No, I'm joking. We aimed higher than that. We aimed way higher than that. We were never just going to be a wife. Being a wife is a lovely thing. But yeah, so I wanted to do this thing. And then actually, even aside from what the kind of expectations were from my school, there was just this thing in me that was already questioning, am I good enough? You know, it's a pretty competitive industry. Do I have what it takes? So though that little, as I call it, the inner voice was already going as I thought about what I would do when I left the confines of that school.
And that's quite common for a lot of people. How did you find yourself coping with that?
With the inner voice and the kind of, I'll tell you how I coped is I ran away screaming and I did psychology instead of actually doing a thing that I wanted to do. And I tried to quieten that voice and convince myself that that was actually something that was, you know, useful and valuable and interesting and a way to contribute and all of those things, which it is to anyone that's a psychologist. I mean, I think that's an incredible profession. But it wasn't actually what was my kind of driving force. It wasn't my rocket fuel. So it was always going to be a challenge, which it proved to be, you know. And
so you were easily distracted.
Unfinished degrees.
Yeah, you were easily distracted then, was that it?
Easily distracted, did you say? What's that? What's that?
Who said that?
I'm not so easily distracted as, well, maybe, but easily convinced away from the thing that was the scariest.
All right.
So it was definitely a scarier road to go down to be an actor than it was to study, get my psychology degree and, you know, get a haircut and get a real job in a way.
So, okay, the psychology, you had an interest, but at that time, not maybe the commitment to take it the full course. So what were you doing with yourself then? What did you decide to do?
So this is when it was kind of came into, was I deciding to do it, or was it someone that I was with was deciding to do it? And I was, my first boyfriend was at university, and he was 10 years older than me, and he got a job in Brisbane. So I left that degree without finishing it, which, as I said to you before, actually, we started recording, that has taken me a lot of years to actually say I have 2 unfinished degrees. And even now I'm a little bit like, oh, right. Because there's a big, well, certainly I'm half Indian as well. So there is also this cultural piece that my grandfather would always say, you empty your pockets into your children's minds. So the idea is that everything you've got is invested into their education. So there was certainly this very cultural thing as well for me around, you know, you go to university, you get a degree, you become a professional, a doctor, a lawyer, a psychologist. So then when I left that degree, there was a lot of about that. And we moved to Brisbane. And that was when I decided I was going to be CEO of a bank instead, because I randomly got a job at a bank in Australia. And I'm like, well, if I'm not going to be an actress winning an Oscar, then I guess I'm going to be the CEO of a bank, because, you know, I never aimed low or even to the middle. I feel if it's going to be a change of trajectory, then that's where it's going to go. Spoiler alert, I did not become the CEO of a bank. There's going to be a few
There seems to
spoiler
be a
alerts
trend.
today.
There seems to be a trend here.
There's going to be some spoilers.
It's interesting though when you talk about culture and the expectations of it, and still today there's a lot around. You've only had that full education in that field if you have a piece of paper to say you have, and a lot of people have those pieces of paper but actually don't really know the topic.
I had that discussion with some friends recently because, you know, we've all got kids now, and it's that thing of what are the expectations and will they go to university? And I'm like, listen, you know, 2 unfinished degrees and I'm doing okay. I'm wondering why it's really important for you to make sure your kids go to university. Now, by the way, I think university is great. Anyone that has that, I'm not sort of don't worry about university, but I do feel like there is, and this is probably drawing on my then what ended up being a 15-year career in banking, is there is a lot around, particularly here, like where did you go to university? And it becomes a whole kind of topic of conversation and status and credibility, or that's what I believed. That was the reality I created for myself during my career. Whereas actually, for every one of those people, there's 10 other Einsteins and Steve Jobs and, you know, people that didn't finish a traditional education.
Yeah, I think we all have the degree. In fact, in business, once you're in there for any length of time, it can be your name with the letters KB after it, knowledge by experience.
I like that. So you were going to say knowledge broker, and I'm like, I quite like that.
Knowledge by experience, and you know, we gain knowledge as we get older, and valuable knowledge, actually often far better than anything that's written in a textbook.
I think it's a good combination. I mean, I read prolifically now. I'm currently reading Bo Lotto's, actually, I can see it over there on my bedside table, Deviate. You know, there is a lot of just incredible knowledge in the world that I almost feel overwhelmed with the level of books that are everywhere. I don't know about you, Alec, but it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I want to know, you know, but that's at the essence of who I am, I guess, is that I want to learn and I want to teach.
Well, so, okay, the psychology wasn't for you at the time, the acting then. There was something within you, though, around the acting, why you wanted to be an actress, which kind of took a little while to come out of you. But you actually told me something about going back and finding something you had written, which
so poignant. Yeah, after Brisbane, we moved to New Zealand, again, because of his job. And it was then that I said, actually, kind of now or never, right? I'm going to audition for drama school, and I got in, and that was a whole other thing right up until the first day, the night before. They're like, are you joining us? Are you not? All of the angst and low confidence and am I good enough? And why did they choose me? The craziness up there, the crazy that was going on. And I will tell you, that was one of the happiest years of my life. Didn't matter if I was sick, if it was hailing, whatever was going on, I was there 100% committed. And the reference that you're making is to actually the box of stuff that I have up in my attic, having moved here originally for 2 years from Australia, like 15 years later. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm actually living here. Let me ship all my stuff over from Australia that was at my sister's house. And I went through some stuff recently, and in one of the boxes, you know, when we used to actually write essays, right? Like essays, I'm that old. And then I got out all of these papers and my grades. And yeah, I mean, 2 things came to mind. One was I got straight A's and, you know, top of my class. But I still didn't believe at that time that I was good enough. So that was a kind of, wow, God, everyone around me was saying it, and I still didn't believe it. But secondly, I came across an essay that we had to write, Alec, around why do you want to be an actor? Right? And within it, this line stayed with me. It's that I wanted to be a vessel that other people could safely sail upon to explore new lands.
Well, that's very deep for somebody that, you know.
For an actor.
No, but it's an interesting insight to your mindset.
Well, I mean, it's really in that cheesy kind of Steve Jobs said it best, you join the dots backwards, right? I realized that it was definitely true from an acting perspective. And when I think about the 6-year-old me in that theatre wanting to be up on the stage, you know, children's theatre, and going up there and what happened every time I was on stage, what happened when I was part of something, it was always driven from this incredible desire to be a part of other people's stories, to be a catalyst in their stories, right? And not even when I was acting, like I remember sitting next to people on buses when I was a kid, And I'd be looking out going, what's your story? Like, who are you? Who are you? Like, what are you feeling? I'd be reading their emotions. I'm like, where have you come from? Where are you going? Have you experienced sadness? Like, do you love someone? Like, I would be creating the whole time and investigating, and just the curiosity about who people were. And then it would strike me, even then as a child, like, oh my God, I've sat next to you on the bus. This is when we sat next to people on buses, you know,
Yes, yes.
And I'd be thinking, oh my God, I've sat in proximity to this human being, and I will never know them, and they will never know me. And that always sparked something in me around, I want to be a part of people's stories. And, you know, maybe that's ego, maybe it was narcissistic, I don't know, that it wasn't that I wanted fame. I wanted to be a spark in their stories. I wanted, I guess at the essence of it, I wanted what most people want, is I wanted to matter, right? I wanted to matter. And for me, that was being a catalyst for change. That mattered. If I wasn't just someone that kind of sat beside them, I was something that sparked a change, which I get to do now, right? I get to do now. I didn't know then, when I was, you know, failing as an actor, low confidence, you know, no self-belief. I didn't know then that I would get to do that still, but just in a different guise.
But isn't that quite interesting? Because what you can see, even when you talk about it, your passion around it, and that innate curiosity about people. And as you said, you probably never see them again. It's sort of like two people crossing in the night. However, your curiosity about them, their story, and how they interact with the world, it has you going. And you've now managed to transcend that into a new career for yourself, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes.
Well, curiosity, definitely, you've hit the nail on the head, well and truly, because that is at the essence, actually, of everything. And I realized that, you know, I was saying how low confidence I had, right? And I just didn't have that belief in myself. And when I look back, as you do with, you know, maturity and reflection, at that time, and I can still see myself in Brisbane, actually. And I was in such a self-destructive state, and my mum rang, and she's like, she couldn't believe what I was doing, and she just didn't understand it. And she said, but why, Geet? But why? And I just remember saying to her, I just don't like myself. I just don't like myself. And I believed it was because I wasn't confident, that I didn't believe I was good enough. But the curiosity word that you mentioned, that's actually the thing, Alec. That's actually what I was lacking. And I feel like we've been fed this myth, and I do a lot of work with women in leadership, and that's not to say that this doesn't affect men as well, but there's a lot about, well, if you could be a bit more confident, you know, then you could get the promotion, you know, or you're a bit too confident, you know, take it down a notch. We want our kids to be confident. That C word, right? You know, when I do a TED talk, I want it to be called the dirty truth about the C word, because actually that C word, it's so detrimental. And it's a myth that we've been fed that, you know, we need it, we want it, we don't know how to get it, we've been told we've got too much of it. But actually, that wasn't the thing that I was lacking. You know, when I didn't go to drama school the first time, when I quit drama school, when I literally turned down work as an actor, when I almost turned down work, it was a promotion actually in my banking career to manage my first multi-million-pound account. And I nearly turned that down. It wasn't confidence. That's the thing. That wasn't the thing that I was lacking. It was curiosity plus courage. That's what I was lacking. And that's the conversation that I want to have. And when I'm working with leaders now, when I'm working with organizations, when I'm working with individuals, I'm like, let's just ban the C word. They come to me because they want more confidence in something, right? Ultimately. But actually, it's a bit of a bait and switch. It's like, yes, I will help you be more confident as a leader and, you know, to build your business. Or to whatever, get more clients. But actually, it's what we work on is dialing up their curiosity and activating their courage, so that when it comes time to make those decisions, those are the levers that they're pulling. That's the bits of their brain that they're activating, not this myth of confidence that they're magically waiting to feel.
If people want to find out more about you, Gita, where can they find out that?
Where can they find out? I mean, it depends what platforms they like. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. You can have a look at my website, highdefinitionyou.com. You'll find everything on there. Also, lots and lots of free top tips on how to actually lead from a place of curiosity, how to perform from that place, how to act with more courage. Lots and lots of free stuff, because what I realized is not a lot of people can afford an executive coach. And certainly in my banking career, it's something, and you would know this, Alec, you know, and your business listeners, is you get an executive coach when you're at a very senior level.
Yes.
And I always say, well, that's great, but what about the more junior ones? Like Tiger Woods didn't wait till he won one Masters and then he got a coach. You know, sports, they understand that a coach is going to get you there and it's going to get you there faster. So I realized that actually, you know, I'd have conversations with people. I'm like, I know I can give you the results that you're looking for. And they just didn't have the funds to do one-to-one executive coaching. So I decided to create all of these free top tips so that at least there's something that you can delve into. And then I created a group coaching program that was much more, so beautiful, because it's this lovely community of people, but it's also then it takes away the, I don't want to say elitism of executive coaching, but it makes it more accessible for people at a more junior level, where I know that they need it. And I saw it myself and I needed it in my own career, right? So, yeah, go there, highdefinitionu.com, and
great.
You can check it out.
Like before you came to the UK, you were in a relationship for a number of years, but there was obviously something that changed, some dynamic had changed in that for you. What did you learn from that relationship, and how did you kind of build that into your future life?
What did I learn? Well, at the time, I believed that decisions were being made for me.
Right.
That I didn't have a lot of control, that I didn't have a lot of choice in the matter. And what I've learned since then is that is absolutely not the case. And 3 words come to mind, because they're 3 words that I use for myself, with my clients, and with my children. And that is simply, I am responsible. And that's what I learned, is that actually none of that stuff, because I lived with regret for such a long time. Like, I could have been, I should have been, I could have been a contender kind of thing, right? Yeah. It's like, that's who I could have been. That was where I should have been. That was my destiny. That was what I was born to do. And I lived in the past. And I lived in a past that I was constantly trying to change. And within that past lived this epic amount of blame. You know, blame for him and the choices that he made, blame that someone didn't, you know, say to me, you should do this, not that. Just blame, blame, blame. Right. And now so much of what I know to be true about what it is to be human and how it is that we're designed, and the work that I do now, is so fully grounded in the fact that there is nothing outside of you that can affect who you are or what you do. And I say that in a deeply profound way, in the sense that there's no one person that can make you feel something. There's no one situation. There's no economy. There is nothing actually other than your own thinking that generates the way you feel. So I was living in a myth of, I'm at the mercy of someone else's decision making, when in fact, if I had known, it's so cliched, if I had known then what I know now about how our system is actually designed to create our human reality, I would have been able to drop into that and recognize the thinking, or the overthinking, that I had about it, right? Which generates the feeling, which then generates the action. And that's what I now do. That's what I now do, is I work with people to unlock every possibility that they can't even imagine when they begin working sometimes, by changing the quality of their thinking, which then changes the quality of their feeling, which then changes the quality of their behavior.
I love that piece, because I think that so many people are always looking for some outlet instead of saying, I am responsible. And I suppose that's a great starting point now, whether you're a drug addict or a business leader. It's a good starting point. I am responsible. So if there's going to be change, it starts with me.
Yeah, and because from there, you recognize that you have choice, right? Because that's another recurring theme of the work that I do, is actually, I have a choice in every single moment, and you're at the mercy of some kind of myth if you think that that's not true. Oh, well, the bus was late, so, you know, that's why I missed that meeting. Like, but you had a choice in that moment.
Yes.
You had a choice to call and say you were going to be late. You had a choice to calm yourself down and not be sweaty and stressed out when you got to the meeting. You had a choice to get into a cab. Where are our choice points? It's like this muscle that we have in our brain that is the least exercised when people come to work with me. And let's exercise the choice muscle and bring some consciousness to it. So from there, what does it occur to you to do, you know, as a leader, as, you know, a business owner? What does it occur to you to do? And let's see what your brain comes up with from that position, rather than from an autopilot where we're reliving the same thing that we did the day before, and oftentimes decades before that, pretending that the sum of everything we were determines the very next step that we take, which is false. In this moment, every single thing is possible, which is why I call myself a professional possibilist.
Yes,
it's all possible.
Actually, speaking of such, you said you're a woman on a mission. Tell me about that.
I'm on a mission. Yeah, I'm on a mission. I mean, and they're really tied together, Alec, because a lot of people say to me, "Oh my God, you're so positive, and I feel so uplifted, and you know, you've got such positivity, and you know, I feel like you know, I'm a bit of a pessimist, and you're obviously an optimist." And then there's kind of the, you know, middle ground of, but I'm a realist. And what I realized is it kind of peeves me off a little bit, because I don't wake out of bed like every day like, oh, angels and Cinderella, and there's like a little birdie flocks over to me. You know, there are days where I'm like, no, it's hitting the fan, and, you know, my 6-year-old isn't doing what I want him to do. So I realized that actually this optimist versus pessimist, or even realist, is almost constricting us in terms of the way that we're creating our reality. So what I want people to do is wake up with possibility. I want them to wake up, whether that's in the moment, literally from their bed, or in fact during a team meeting or a big pitch for a new client, or when they take on the CEO role, whatever it is, wake up to the possibility. So actually what you become is not an optimist or a pessimist, is you become a possibilist. And that requires, as I've said, curiosity, courage, and I have a methodology behind it now that rewires your brain. But that bit of it is well and truly tied to the mission, because what I'd love, and I don't yet know exactly how I'm going to do it, Alec, is
right, okay.
I've named a number, and it's 1 billion lives. Hashtag 1 billion lives. And that is the number of lives that I want to positively impact before I leave this planet. Now, if that's tomorrow, we're in trouble, my friend, because you're going to have to get this out to a lot of people. I'm just saying. Okay. No pressure.
No pressure. I suppose you've heard it said to you that, wow, you're just one of those people that's full of energy and wake up like that every day. And I wish I was that person. How do you counter those people?
Well, to that, I say exactly what I've just said, is that it's not about, yes, I'm high energy. Yes, I look for the possibility in something rather than kind of shutting it down. But that's possible for anyone to do that. It's, do you want to, and why do you want to? Because if you're seeing it in me, then chances are that what we are attracted to in other people we want, right? It's why opposites attract. Like, oh, okay, my other half is very detailed, very logical, very rational. Like, oh, I want a little bit more of that. So if you're seeing it in me and you want a little bit more of that, then what I would say to you is come work with me, because you can absolutely have it, because you can train your brain to be like that. You can, and I don't mean train it for positivity. That's a key thing that I would love your listeners to take away, is it's not about being positive and high energy all the time. You could be incredibly academic, incredibly detail-oriented, logical, rational, determined, quiet, but you can seek the possible from there. And from that place, imagine what might occur in terms of your decision-making, your problem solving, your relationship deepening, your communication skills. From that place, just imagine what's possible.
Tell our listeners what website they need to go to find all that.
Well, highdefinitionu.com. And the reason it's high definition is because I'll tell you one quick story, is one quick story. None of my stories are quick, Alec, as you know.
We're okay. We're okay.
Is the reason it's called High Definition You is I was in our front room not watching a football game, but Tim was. And I remember sitting there, this was some years back, and I heard him say, why am I not watching this in high definition? So, you know, you've got HD and SD channels, right? Yeah. And now you've got 4K, but anyhow, I had HD. And I looked up as he picked up the remote control and he pressed the button to move it over to the HD version of the channel. And I looked at that screen, and in that millisecond when it switched over, I could see like the blades of grass became crystal clear, and they were so vibrant, and the colors were almost technicolor compared to how it was. And I could see the faces of the players, you know, as they took a dive when they were kind of going for the goal and trying to get the penalty. Could see the faces in the crowd when there used to be crowds at football games and they didn't have to pretend with the noise of crowds. And I realized how vivid it was, how memorable it was, how much more impactful it was. And that's when I realized, actually, that's what I want to give to people. I want to give them what I call upstream, the principles of what it is to create yourself in high definition and be a possibilist, but also the downstream kind of remote control tips, tricks, techniques, strategies, toolkit to be high definition, because it's not, you're totally watchable exactly as you are, Alec. Your standard channel is, whoever is listening to this, your standard channel is totally watchable. But actually, I want to give you that upstream and that downstream so that if and when you choose to switch to high definition, that you can. Right. And that might be as a leader of a new team. That might be, you know, stepping into your first leadership role. That might not be even as a leader. It might be going into, you know, one of your first roles and that early career talent. It might be stepping up in a team meeting and talking with conviction about something where you're not sure what the answer is. Whatever it is, when that situation confronts you, you're not left like I was, feeling like, oh, I don't have the confidence to do it. It's like, that's not the thing that's missing. Here are the things to put you into high definition so that you can see those possibilities and act from that place.
I'm always talking to my guests, and this is kind of going to be an open door I'm going to be pushing, because the question I always ask them is the importance of personal mentors, coaches in your business life. So many people try to struggle through life without them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always think it's a little bit like, many years ago, I did triathlons, and I went to the gym and I had a routine, and, you know, I kind of knew, and I Googled and I looked at what exercises and which was the best wetsuit. And, you know, I thought I was a good swimmer and I can do this. And I kind of trained on my own for a year. And I did the triathlon, and it took me an embarrassing amount of time to finish. And I'm like, okay, I'm never going to do that again. So then I sat back and thought, well, what can I do differently? And I started Googling like better ways, faster times. And then I thought, who, not what, but who can help me accelerate this process? And then, of course, a personal trainer, right? And so Paul entered my life. And then there was a level of commitment that I had. Firstly, because it was financial. So I'm like, well, I've paid money to this guy. I'm going to show up every week, right? Whereas before it was like, oh, I'll kind of go, or I won't go. So there comes this time where you realize, and the quicker you realize this, the better. And I understand I'm biased because I'm a coach, but the quicker you realize that getting an expert, and particularly someone who is a trained coach who can elicit the expert in you, the quicker you come to that realization, the faster you're going to accelerate your success in whatever your chosen field is, whatever your business is. I have a coach. I would never say to anybody, don't do something, you know, if I haven't done it myself. It accelerates you because, yes, you're committed because there's a financial commitment there. So you're like, I'm going to get the most out of this coaching program and I am going to apply everything I'm learning. But there's also a level of accountability. You know, I'll often get clients who'll say, so I knew I was going to talk to you today, so I, right? So there's this level of accountability, a level of momentum, a level of motivation that comes with that, which, by the way, sports people get, right? Tiger Woods didn't wait till he got to kind of winning the first Masters to go, okay, I'm here, now I can afford a coach. Like, sports people get it, elite sports people don't wait until they're elite. They become elite because they invest in a coach really, really early on.